Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. So, we don't really have saints in Unity, but we honor the saints of other traditions. And in Christianity, it's kind of a thing. Like some traditions have some saints, and they're not always the same as other saints. But pretty much everyone agrees that Mary is a saint, and here's why. I mean, can you imagine first-time mom giving birth in a barn with a lot of smelly animals, all these shepherds and magi coming to visit all the time. There's no peace. She finally gets the baby to sleep in a hay trough, and some dude comes up and says, "You want a drum solo?" I mean, come on. And the story goes, she gently nodded. That's a saint. Now, we know that that's not all. The drummer boy is not in the Bible, in case any Bible scholars are out there, and I know that. But there's a legend. These are ancient stories that have deep meaning for us. And I often say when we're talking about these ancient stories, it's something I picked up somewhere along the way, that the Native Americans have a tradition of saying that I don't know if any of this happened, but I know it's true. That there's deep truth in these stories. And today it's the part 2 or 3, actually, of our December series, Glad Tidings of Great Joy. And we're talking today about why we celebrate. Last week, it does seem like a year. Time is becoming very elastic, I noticed. Last week, we made space for the grief that we're experiencing this year, and it was important and it's powerful. But today I want to turn our attention to celebration and why it's important to remember that we are here to celebrate even in a tough year like we're having right now. So, there are a couple of things I want to say about that. The first thing I want to say is that we celebrate because, like everything else in the world of form, we know this too shall pass. That this experience we're having right now, it will change. And there is a lot of deep teaching from the ancient peoples about this idea of seasonality and cycles. And then the second thing, which I will share at the end of my message today, is that we want to celebrate what is. Not just what is to come, and not just the what is won't be, but we want to celebrate what is now. And how do we do that when it's difficult or different? So, December. Tomorrow is the Winter Solstice, which in the Northern Hemisphere has been celebrated way before we had written language. It is just an ancient thing that, can you imagine that for the most ancient of human species, people, we're all the same species still, but they would see that the days are getting shorter and shorter, and particularly the young ones might be a little frightened by that. But there was always some old codger who's like, I've seen this before. The sun will return. Maybe we should create some kind of a ceremony or a ritual just so we can remember this all together, that every year this happens. It gets cold, it gets dark, but the sun returns. Spring is coming. And the further north you go in the Northern Hemisphere, the colder and the darker and the shorter the days are. It's really, you can see the need for it. So one of the oldest traditions that we have in the Northern European tradition is Yule. I think I pronounced that correct. The Scandinavian celebration, which is attributed, or it's surrounding their Norse god of Thor, played by Chris Hemsworth in the movies. lots of, Jamaica's like, I'll celebrate that. But it was a time of remembering the light will return. So there would be a log, a fire, a bonfire would be burned, and one log would be pulled out and not completely burned, and it would be saved for the next year to get the continuity of the seasons, the Yule log. Saturnalia is an ancient tradition of the end of a cycle where we throw off all the rules and the prisoners are set free, and there's a lot of drinking and craziness. Sounds like New Year's Eve today. I mean, that's just kind of what happens. And then it would be a return to the new cycle where we start again afresh. Hanukkah just ended a couple of nights ago. It's the 8-day Feast of Lights where we celebrate again the light triumphant over the darkness. Diwali is a Hindu tradition which celebrates the same thing. It happens in October or November, but it's the same idea that the darkness is a part of the human experience. And light, in this sense, is a metaphor of the eternal spiritual truth of who we are, which will always reveal itself in the turning of the seasons. There's an ancient story which I love. I don't remember the first time that I received the teaching of this as an archetypal story of human experience, but it comes from about 1500 BC is the earliest recorded version of this story in Greek mythology. That Demeter was one of the many consorts of the main god Zeus. She was a goddess of fertility and harvest. And she had a beautiful daughter named Persephone. And one day while Persephone was walking in the fields and picking flowers, she caught the attention of Hades, the god of the underworld. And her beauty so captivated him that he kidnapped her and took her with him to the underworld. Demeter came looking for her daughter and was so distraught that she couldn't find her. She searched the world with a lantern, and every place her tears fell, the ground turned to stone. Finally, the people were starving in the darkness and in hunger because this goddess of fertility and harvest was not doing her job in her grief. And they petitioned to Zeus, who brought her to Olympus and said, "This will never do. I will assist you. We will go visit my brother down yonder, and we'll get Persephone back." But there is a rule in this legend, in this story, that you can return from the underworld with divine help, but if you eat any food from the underworld, you are doomed to stay there. Hades knew this, and he knew that Zeus was coming to free Persephone, and he tricked Persephone into eating 4 seeds of a pomegranate grown in his orchard. Zeus realized what had happened, and he brought Persephone back to the higher world, but she would be forever obligated to return to the underworld 4 months of each year because of the seeds she had eaten there. It's one of the earliest origin of the seasons stories we have as human beings. And for me, this one is personally relevant, that I am every personality test you can take on extroversion, top of the chart. I like being out. I like being celebratory. I like connecting. I like doing. I like a lot of activity. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. I'm high achieving. I like doing all of this stuff. And yet, part of my soul needs to turn within. And at different times in my life, it's taken the form of depression and sometimes of grief. And sometimes just a gentle, quiet pulling in the energy. But this idea of seasonality in life has healed me and rescued me. Because you see, what I used to do when I would be going through one of these Persephone episodes, I would think something was wrong. I'm doing something wrong. Something's got to be fixed. What can I would work harder. I would strive more, and yet it would continue to weight me down until I learned this trick of just moving with the seasons. And I know that many people in the United States of America really love the place they live where they get all 4 seasons. And I just want to share with you a story about that. My first winter in Houston, I had been in Reno for 2 years. Many years in Dallas, but then I had served in a beautiful community that I still love. I have so many good friends there in Reno. But I had never experienced winter that lasted a long time. And those winters were tough for me. And then my first time back, my first winter in Houston, it's like come February, hey, spring is here. And I remember there was a December day, I was walking in my neighborhood over in Meyerland, the first neighborhood I lived here in Houston, and I'm walking my dog, and down this one block on this street, there was a tree that was bare, as to be expected in December. And the next house over, there was a tree, still had green leaves from its summer cycle. And then there was a tree that was budding out in flowers for spring, and there was another that had fall colors. So we get 4 seasons in Houston all on the same day and sometimes on the same block. We get them here, okay? But I'm a springtime guy. And yet, winter precedes spring. A couple of things I'd like to read to you now. From Ecclesiastes chapter 3, this is probably the most famous of the wisdom writings in the Hebrew Scriptures. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. So we celebrate 2 things. We celebrate that this dark time we're currently in will pass. And we can also celebrate that right here, we can be present with the turn of the seasons, that something is drawing us inward, that is renewing, that is important. It's necessary. You really can't have spring without winter. There's a beautiful song written by Michel Legrand, and it was for a French film, and I don't speak French or know what the French lyrics are, but the translation of the title was, "You Must Believe in Spring." And Marilyn and Alan Bergman, incredible lyricists, they wrote English words for this wonderful song. And this song really sustained me in that first winter I was in Reno with the snow piling up and the trees so bare. And this morning, as I was listening to a couple of versions of the song, I heard there's Barbra Streisand does a really simple, just her voice and a piano. Usually it's overproduced. That's a kind of a critique of her music, and this was so simple. And she didn't oversing it, just beautifully sang it. And because she's Barbra Streisand, she got the Bergmans to write additional lyrics for her. So I want to read to you as a poem, maybe. This is the English lyrics to "You Must Believe in Spring." When lonely feelings chill the meadows of your mind, just think, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? Beneath the deepest snows, the secret of the rose is merely that it knows you must believe in spring. Just as a tree is sure its leaves will reappear, it knows its emptiness is just the time of year. The frozen mountains dream of April's melting streams. How crystal clear it seems, you must believe in spring. When angry voices drown the music of the spheres, the children face a world that's far beyond their years. Above the darkest sky, the full horizons lie with all the reasons why you must believe in spring. You must believe in love and know it's on its way, just as the sleeping rose awaits the kiss of May. So in a world of snow, of things that come and go, where what you think you know you can't be certain of, you must believe in spring and love. And so for those who are struggling under the weight of this winter, of the heart and of the mind, and that we as a people are experiencing with the illness and the loss and the uncertainty, I'm here to bring glad tidings, or good tidings of glad joy, however that goes. Great tidings of glad joy. I'm not going to remember it. I'm going to let it go. I'm here to bring you some good news. Spring is coming. There is a spring coming for you. There is a spring coming for our world, for our nation, for this church. I see this room filled with us again and hugging one another again. Can you imagine that we'll be able to hug? It's coming. And we can hold on to that seed of the possible as we move through this time. So for me, it feels like all of the big brothers and sisters of humanity are whispering to us, you're going to make it. From all of these ancient stories, from the Christian, the birth of Jesus story, which we'll be sharing on Thursday night in our Christmas Eve service, from Demeter and Persephone, the Yule story, all of them are people just, it's like I think about really like our big brothers and big sisters, the wise ones who have seen it, they've learned the wisdom of it, and they've given it to us, saying, you're going to make it too. We made it. You're going to make it too. Think about the ancestors behind us. John does this beautiful meditation in his family constellation workshops with all of our ancestors like angels' wings spreading behind us, and they're all sending loving energy forward through you and through me, saying, you're going to make it. You're going to do it. You're going to be okay. So we find ways to celebrate. I don't know if you have a winter solstice tradition, but I want to share with you, when I lived in Dallas for many years, Dallas is very interesting. I don't want to start the Houston-Dallas feud or keep it going, the rivalry anyway, but Dallas is very image conscious. Can we agree? Yeah, so there's something about it and it's very kind of proper in the way it presents itself, and that's kind of the collective culture. But there is funky, hippie, eclectic, weird Dallas too, and I always love those people. I am one of those people. My friend Amy Martin, Moon Lady, she created a tradition in Dallas, Texas, of a winter solstice that was incredible. Hundreds, thousands of people, all the spiritual and religious misfits from every tribe and culture would come together for dancing and storytelling and incredible music. Just an amazing thing she did every year. And she was a wonderful writer, and that I can't remember if it was really at midnight or we just pretended, but at one point the lights would be lowered. We'd do it at Cathedral of Hope in Dallas, and she would lead the entire congregation in a howl. And we would just howl. It was hilarious. But it was so sweet and beautiful. A way of connecting with all of our misfits, people that we're here on the planet with now, and all the wise ones who came before, and the fools, the holy fools who came before and are here now. And just together, we're going to get through this dark night. And something beautiful, something new, something that is both familiar and new, and that is next month's series on a spiral dynamics, that we're actually on a spiral. We go through circles, but we're going upward at the same time. So there are a couple things I want to tell you about this idea of solstice, about the return of spring, the return of the light. First of all, think about it this way. Where exactly has the light gone? Has the sun stopped shining during the winter? No, it doesn't shine any less. It's just that the earth has tilted a little bit. The perspective has shifted a little bit. And I want you to remember that when you are feeling some darkness and some heaviness, the light is no less. That the love and the power of God is no less than it was in the time of your greatest triumph. Perhaps something in us has moved, has occluded that light. And I'm not trying to make you feel shamed or blamed because you're having one of those winter experiences. But for me, it's quite comforting to remember that even in those experiences, I can't feel the light quite as much, but I know it's there. And it hasn't dimmed or diminished in the slightest. The second thing I'd like you to think about in terms of perspective is that this is a time of faith. That when you're going through something that is difficult and challenging, we can remember and have faith that unlike the winter solstice where the sun is out there being occluded, the light is within us. The light of spiritual possibility, potentiality, and expression of good, that is in us. No one can take it away. And only you and only I can block the view. So just have faith that you are in the light, you are of the light, and you are the light. There's a little quote from A Course in Miracles, which I love. The sign of Christmas is a star, a light in the darkness. See it not outside yourself, but shining in the heaven within. And so finally, to celebrate that which is to come, but to also celebrate the turning within. That is what the trees do, you know. They lose their leaves from the growing season, and on the top, the surface, it looks as though they have died. But what they are doing instead is putting all of the energy into the roots that are grounded in the source, in the earth. And for the next few months, those trees will draw everything they need for the coming growing season to them in this quiet and what appears to us as a dormant phase. And that is to be celebrated. John and I were talking last night. He did I think he said it was a drum circle on a solstice at Unity of Pompano. Wonderful minister there, and his name just went out of my mind. I love you. I just see your face. Lawrence, that's it. Thank you, Lawrence. It wasn't in my notes. He just came to me to share. And what Lawrence shared with the circle that they were doing was that all of nature is calling us inward at this time. But we as humans, we fight it. we go make more parties, make ourselves busier than ever, buying all the things, preparing all this stuff. We fight the turning inward. When the days are shorter, all of the animals know to do less, to rest more, to be more quiet. And so in the midst of your doing, and I know not as many are traveling, thank you. This will be the second time in, 35 years that I haven't traveled to Oklahoma to be with my mom at Christmas, but I'm not doing it this year. Find time to celebrate the turning within and be quiet, to just simply sit and rest and return to yourself. There is often a temptation to busy ourselves out of the winter of our lives. And if we will allow ourselves the gift of stopping and turning within, I think you'll see that the spring will be all the richer, all the more meaningful, all the more joyful, and all the more exuberant because of it. So I'm going to invite you to turn within with me now. I didn't plan on doing this, but I'm just going to ask us to have a moment of prayer. Just opening to that inner connection, the quiet. In this space where not much is moving, not much is happening, something within us does seek to root and to ground in a deeper faith, in a deeper reality. So what I know is in this moment we are being called inward and deeper, that we are being called into a time of preparation for a great rebirthing. But for now, we are being called to nurture our soul, to nurture our heart. And so we are still. And we let God love us deeply, just as we are. Something beautiful is happening. And we trust it, and we allow it. And so it is. Amen. Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.